All right, we'll let it get going then. All right, we'll let it get going then in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, spiritual dope. I am on today with Dr. Craig E. Wright. He is a native of Baltimore, Maryland, where he studied religion and philosophy in his youth as a member of the Baltimore Ethical Society. He holds degrees in psychology and metaphysics. He's an ordained metaphysical minister and a certified metaphysical practitioner. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about his story, as how he got there. So I'm going to leave that out. But one of the big things that we're going to be talking about is numerology, kind of how you went public with your story, the radio show that you were on for quite some time, and just unless we're going to talk about the journey. So, Dr. Craig Wright, thank you so much for being on here today. How I like to start these off is with the idea that you and I are here connecting, and sources, kind of put us in this time and this place and this space so that a message can flow through you to somebody in the audience today. What is that message that's coming through you?
Well, that message would be each of us has a contract with our Creator, with Source. It doesn't matter what name you use, God has thousands of names depending on the culture you're from. But each of us has a contract with Source, and that we are given gifts and we make a promise. The contract is composed of gifts that we receive and a promise that we make. And that information is available because it shows up in the numbers in our birth date and the letters in our name.
No, it's powerful. So it's interesting to me. Of course, the first thing that comes to my mind as we were talking, we connected online, and you mentioned you'd like the show, be on the show, and one of the first things that kind of comes into my mind though about numerology that I think that some of the naysayers, right, would say, well, if it's all in the numbers, is it all predetermined, right? Or what happens after you give me some numbers? Is it fatalistic? Is it something else?
Well, no, numerology does not rob us of our free will. For example, if you're born on the first of any month, one of your gifts is leadership. Everybody knows what number one means. So you could be an engineer, you could be a pilot, you could be a fashion designer, but whatever you decide to be using your free will, you're going to be at the cutting edge, and you're going to be the best at it. So the number one will reveal your creativity, that you're here to be an originator, not an imitator. You're here to lead, not to follow. And more than likely, if you're born on the 1st, 10th, 19th, or 28th of any month, you're going to have opportunities to become self-employed. Those are the number ones. If I may, at this point, it's important that we realize there's a difference between figures and numbers. If I hold up a pen and I say I have one pen, that would be a quantity. In this case, number one is a figure, a quantity. But if I look a little closer and I say big pens are number one, now I'm no longer talking about a quantity, but a quality, at least in my opinion, of being the best. So everybody knows what it means to be numero uno, but every number has a meaning, or every number reveals a spiritual quality, a spiritual quality. So getting back to your question, no, it's not fatalistic. For example, it'll tell you, hey, it's springtime, time to plant, but you can plant lettuce, tomatoes, okra, corn, whatever you choose. But you don't want to plant in January when it's freezing. So that's the benefit of numerology.
I got you. I got you. That makes sense. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about your journey into this space. It kind of happened, right? You had a tragic death of a friend, your best man for your wedding, if I recall correctly. And
Yes.
let's just talk about, I mean, let's talk about kind of how that hit you and what you did, how that kind of spurned your journey.
That was my that was my wake up call, if you will, or my call to spirituality. Um, I had showed a propensity for math and science when in seventh grade, and my parents decided they were going to have an engineer in the family. My mother was a school teacher, so I was never out of school. Math, science, every program, summer school, anything having to do with math and science, I was there. I was preparing to become a jet pilot. I wanted to fly jets with the Navy. By the seventh grade, I knew every jet they owned. I knew what armament they had, what caliber machine guns they had. Oh, I was prepared to become a technocrat. I wasn't a believer at that time. If you couldn't measure it, quantify it, I was into, should we say, figures, not numbers at that time. But when my best friend died, it was from a drug overdose, Brandon, and I didn't even know he was using. So that told me a lot about myself. I was too self-absorbed. I wasn't paying attention to anything around me. And it also told me that it started my search for life. I began to ask those tough questions. Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? If it's going to be this arbitrary, take me now. I don't want this pain anymore. And I got to tell you, that happened when I was 21 years old, and I've never really had allowed myself to get that close to another individual since then. But what did happen was I began to pray for the very first time, and I began to ask the universe, why am I here? What's the meaning of life? And the answer came back to me in a form that I would understand. Um, I just was in a state of yearning and wanting to know, and I heard a song. It was on the radio. It was called "In Search of the Third Eye" by man. They just played some of his music on the Super Bowl this year. Uh, Roy Ayers. So this song mystified me. Search of the Third Eye. What's that all about? The lyrics were secrets of numbers can be found. Secrets of wisdom can be found. So this was before Amazon and Google. It took me 2 years to get a copy of that book. After I bought the album, read the cover, took me 2 years to get the book. But once I got my hands on it, it was called In Search of the Third Eye by Vera Stanley Alder. And this was a book the artist read who composed the song. So I'm reading the book now. I went from the song to the artist to the book, and the book was talking about the secrets of numbers. And I discovered I was a number seven, and that the purpose of my life was to study the meaning of life and share it with others. I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm doing. So I realized that there's no greater love that a friend has. This is how I rationalize his passing. The scripture says there's no greater love that a friend lay down his life. So I said, okay, I'm going to change because of his passing. And I started going to the Library of Congress, reading everything I could get my hands on about the secrets of numbers. Now you can go to the library and find 20 books on the shelf. There's even a numerologist for dummies. But back in 1972, if you want to read about numerology, you had to go to the Library of Congress and study the journeys of Pythagoras, how he went to the mystery schools in Egypt and studied with the masters there who taught using the oral tradition. And then he came back and shared what he learned, and the Greeks became famous.
No, I love that. One of the quotes one of the things you were referencing already was something that I believe you found from Pythagoras, right? Was the idea that there's a difference between figures and numbers, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
I know you've already kind of illustrated. So, yeah, absolutely right. Right now, touch of the finger. You sent me your book in an email, right? I was able to read like numerology information. Touch of a finger. I can go to Amazon and I've got something on Kindle instantaneously.
yes.
I can
Things have
go
changed.
download like these great mysteries in moments as soon as it comes to my mind. But what I think is interesting so far, right, is that here's this arbitrary song that plays, right, that
Yeah,
strikes a chord for you and sets you on your path.
yeah. Amazing.
right?
Secrets of numbers. It's the only way I could have even accepted the concept that there was a higher being, and that it was influenced my life in any way. And it was
Right.
a tremendous wake up call, you know. And it came to me not from some guy up on a pulpit in a yellow suit, uh,
Right.
screaming and hollering.
Right.
It came to me through my own research and a call, a discovery. No one else knew what I was doing or what I was pursuing, and it spoke to me. It fed me in a manner that I was ready to receive through numbers. It was the only way in for me.
Mm.
I
So, I
had my
mean,
shield up,
yeah, no
but
doubt, no doubt, right? I mean, I also got to imagine like Baltimore. You grew up in Baltimore. Was it the city proper or was it the suburbs?
yeah, I grew up in Baltimore City.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Um,
mean, city proper. It's I doubt, like, especially in that time too, that it's really a good idea to run around and talk about being spiritual, right? Especially as a male, right? And
that's
in that
right.
in that city environment, and then it's not even just you're not even just spirituality. I think's you know easier. Then now you're throwing in numerology too. Now you're like, well, not just spiritual, but like let's deal with numbers too, right? And I
Yeah.
think that can be that can throw people off too. I imagine just in terms
Yes,
of
it did.
levels of acceptance, right? What people are willing to accept, and
That's
so
very true. That's very true.
so did you become a pilot?
No, after my discovery, after my friend passed and I discovered numerology, I became my first client. And I began instead of going to the Air Force and studying engineering, I went to seminary. I went to the seminary. I felt that was my calling. But what happened was once I got into seminary, I discovered there really wasn't a search for God there. They had already done the search and they had everything figured out. They wanted to make sure you were saying the right things before you could get their degree.
Yeah, and I mean,
So,
I think that's the challenge too of spirituality slash religion, right? I mean, that's I think one of the reasons for Spiritual Dope, right? The podcast is
awesome.
because like let's have a conversation about spirituality that isn't previously dictated to us as whether or not this is acceptable or not, right?
Exactly.
And so
So,
you found that they were just trying to dictate to you, here's the right way to say it, right? Is that kind of what you're
that's exactly right. I was getting good grades because technically my writing skills and my research was spot on. They could not deny what I was saying. I was finding evidence of reincarnation. I was finding evidence of numerology, how every time the number 40 shows up, 4 stands for order and 0 is a symbol for God. So every time the number 40 show up, God was establishing a new order, 40 days and 40 nights of rain, 40 years of wandering in the desert. And each time that number precipitated a shift or a change that God was bringing a new order. So that I was getting good grades, but I was very uncomfortable there because, it was like swimming upstream. So from
Hold on
seminary,
one second, real quick there, because
mhm,
I've been on the number 40 for like years now. I'm like, what the hell?
wow,
Because it's always showing up, just like you said. I'm like, there's got to be
wow,
something, right? Like, there's got to be something because there's 40 days, 40 nights. There's
exactly.
the whatever. But I also couple it to age. Like when we turn 40, like there's a massive shift, right? Like there's a massive
Yes,
shift in kind of who a lot of us are, and I think that 40 is illustrated in my take on 40 has always been like these are the signals. Like it doesn't always have to be with ages and years, but also kind of what you're saying, there's numerology there. But in my mind, I'm always like, well, that's just like the signal, like age 40, like you're gonna after
time to get
40
serious.
right, something's gonna change in 40 days and 40 nights, be ready. So that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. It's something that's
Yes.
been on my mind for literally a few years now. So thank you.
Awesome. Of all the
Yeah,
numbers I could have
for
picked
sure.
out,
That's right.
that's spirit, isn't it?
That's
That's
it. You know
how
how it
it
goes.
works.
That's it.
So four stands for order. If you think in terms of Adam being one, Eve being two, when one and two get together, there's kids. That's three, right? So you can't have your kids crawling around. So you put them inside the playpen. It's a four-sided figure. So you have some order. You can get your work done.
That's
In
great. Now,
zero,
yeah, I love, so one of the things I love about, finding and establishing a pattern and order, and you're doing it with like the numbers, you begin to apply it anywhere, right? You get a certain kind of set of knowledge, and now you're able to apply it in so many different facets that without any of that knowledge, you can't, right? So, that's going to,
that's exactly right.
yeah.
Especially that number four.
Mm-hmm.
The 40 means when it comes to a home, fixing, mending, and repairing. So whenever my clients contact me with an address like 2102 or number 1921, apartment B, I always tell them to avoid a house with the number four unless they're prepared to do a lot of work on it and a lot of renovating and keeping it up, keeping it up.
It's good to know. It's good. It's a good one to keep in mind as I'm in moving to my next place here shortly. So I'll keep in mind that to keep the number four of the uh, out of the equation for sure, for sure. So you took this kind of even at the age of 21, coming out of Baltimore, young, excited man. I gotta imagine like even spirituality, right? Like that's still it's a tough grab. And so you follow through seminary and then to what? Just trying to follow the journey.
Well, seminary didn't work out too well for me. I was just there one semester, carried a 3.7, but after that I started going to the Library of Congress and studying on my own, studying the information that I was being called to. It was just fascinating. It was like it was food. It was the answer. It was what I was looking for, and it was telling me all the questions I had, why I was here, what I was supposed to do, and I was studying it and learning from it. And after a while, um, I started getting clues from source to share it. I would be in a checkout line, and I would see someone's name on their name tag, and I would hear information. If I read their name, computed it, I would hear information about them. Like I'm hearing information about you. I'm gonna share a little later about this is how it started to happen, and I didn't know what it was. I was afraid. So literally, I heard a voice tell me, "You have the gift of discernment through numbers." I had to go look it up. I didn't know what discernment meant. So I had to go look that up and say, okay, I'm going to be getting some information from what I've been studying now. Now I've reached a certain level. Now the universe is going to start using me. My heart's pounding a little heavier now because it's not only about me. I'm being asked to share information. So eventually I built up enough confidence to start doing that. I would tell someone, well, I know you've been waiting for money a long time. It's going to be in your mailbox today. Things like that, in a checkout line. Then I would run away fast so nobody would know who I was or anything like that. But then I'd come back the next day with to buy some milk, and they would say, "How did you know that? You were
That's
right. It
crazy.
was
Yeah.
there." So that's how the buzz started getting about this guy knows about numbers. So people started contacting me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any services, anything like that. I just share
Well, and I
information
mean,
with them.
two things there, right? Well, for I love the idea, right? The universe is going to start using me, right? Like, I mean, just so
Yeah.
you set yourself up as a vessel, right? You set yourself up as a conduit, and um, we talk a lot about like receiving. We talk a lot about tuning in and all that kind of thing. But it sounds to me like you just you allowed, right? And you let it course through you. So I think that's pretty cool. And second part, like you're talking about right now, I'm just thinking the internet, we didn't have what we got right now. We did, you couldn't, Craig, you couldn't go back there and spin up spiritual dope back then, right? Because it was
That's
like it
right.
wasn't an option. You had like a street corner, like maybe, and spiritual dope was that corner or that block, so tell me tell me a little more about tell me a little about how it
So
proceeds though.
So I'm continuing to listen to the radio station. It was a college station, Morgan State University Radio, where I heard the song "In Search of the Third Eye." So I'm continuing to listen to the station, and a lady comes on the station named Reverend Hazel Cassell, and she has a radio show. So, and she's teaching classes about spirituality. I said, oh, I need to learn some more about this. So I went to visit her and I'm talking to her about her classes. So I'm getting ready to leave her office. And she says, aren't you going to tell me about your gift? I didn't say anything to this lady about numerology or any special gift, but she had psychic abilities. And she says, I'm seeing numbers around you and you haven't said anything to me about it. So I grudgingly came back to her office and sat down. I started sharing with her what had happened, what my experiences was. So she invited me on her radio show. I said, okay, I'll come on your show, talk about numbers. So people are calling in, giving their name and their birthday. I'm doing readings over the air. And at the end of the show, she gives out my phone number. Well, I guess I was kind of naive. Now I expect to give out my number and my website, but not this first show. I'm just sharing my gift. And she gave out my number. Brandon, people started calling me. My phone went off the hook. I had to go back home and create services. Well, this will be a reading, and I'll call this a forecast, and to meet the demand that people wanted to know. And
That's
man,
awesome.
that's
That's
how I got started
yeah,
being a numerologist. I did not plan it. I had never heard of it. It just happened, and I really feel like it was my calling, and that it's why I'm here to be of service to God, to share information about these numbers, man. It's so fascinating and so complex, yet it's all around us.
right.
It's like we come with a owner's manual. Like when you buy a new gift or you get a any type of product, you open it up, it says, here's the owner's manual, read this first, and it's our name and our birthday, and
Right.
we're totally blind to it,
For sure. No, no, it's yeah, that's you know how many of us are always walking around and be like, well, we didn't come with an owner's manual. Now you're telling us that we do. So we'll obviously have to dig into that, right? We'll obviously have to dig into that. So, you know, you've been able to sustain through numerology is my question then. You know, have you been able to kind of like make your living out of this practice?
It's interesting. It started off where no,
Okay.
no, it was a labor of love. Like I said, I didn't reach out to start a business. It was only people contacting me for my services, and I always was doing something else. Well, this was sort of like a vocation.
Uh-huh.
But as time has gone on, when I was 21, I ended up having a show on that same radio show the same radio station I was listening to, doing a numerology report. So over time, I would give classes, announce workshops. Nobody would show up.
Mm,
Nobody would show up. Our runner's place, zero.
mm,
But now, yes, workshops. I'm been teaching at the local community college. One of the people who heard my show on the radio was a program director at the community college of Baltimore County, and they asked me to create a curriculum
that's
to teach
awesome.
numerology and make it
Yeah.
available.
That's great.
So things have really changed since 1972 when I
For
first got
sure, right? Yeah,
started.
a couple ththings have changed for sure. A couple things have changed. Couple things. Oh man. So
I love how you understate things like that. I told
yeah,
you I was picking up some things for you too, and what
yeah.
I'm picking up is a global impact. That's what I'm picking up. That
Mm,
I don't know if you can translate your show into other languages, but I'm picking up your impact is going to be global, and people from different cultures from all around the world going to start tuning in to your show and what you write. I know you didn't tell me you were an author or a writer, but that's showing up. Picking up you're a writer, and something you write has a potential to go to the big screen.
mm, mm. Well, I don't know what I'd write that would go to the big screen. But there's still plenty of time. Uh, I love the idea though, and thanks, man. It's really interesting. I was just talking talking to somebody this weekend in New Zealand to get connected with somebody else who's got some global initiatives, and just being able to have that conversation. So
Yeah,
I got like little goosebumps, and like my hair is rising up over here. So and definitely with the
yeah,
different cultures, right? That's what this is about. It's not about it is exactly what it's about, those different cultures. If you look at the graphics for Spiritual Dope, you see Jesus figure there, you see Buddha there, and my original one had Shiva on there, right?
awesome,
And so just kind of like
awesome.
we're all saying the same things. We've all got let's
Exactly.
how do we light the spirit up within us? How do we honor it, right? I think that's one at first. How do we recognize it? How do we honor it? And how do we allow for it to bloom, right? What do we do to cultivate ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
nurture that and share it. But so thanks, man. That's so is that done through numbers or just straight vibing?
Well, I think straight vibing led me to numerology.
Hmm.
Listening to the song, doing the research, pursuing and holding in my consciousness, because I believe the mind is soul and thoughts are seed. And what we're co-creators with the universe, sparks from the big flame, if you will. And by holding that in my mind, it just manifested. That book showed up in a bookstore in Towson that was only in business for a year and a half.
Mm, that's crazy.
So
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
okay, the universe put that store there for me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think I vibe to numerology. But after that, I just began to study it and apply my skills, my technical abilities, so that someone can give me their birthday and I can edit it up real quickly,
Hmm.
because I'm used to formulas and things like that. So math doesn't frighten me. So I can look at a name tag, add it up, convert the letters to numbers, and give someone a reading within seconds, just because of the the pathways, the mental pathways I created by studying math and science.
For
I didn't
sure.
know I'd be applying it this way.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you never know how spirit's gonna strike, right? So real,
exactly.
if this is okay, so it's my wife's birthday next week.
Great.
Can we do her
Awesome.
numbers? Yeah. So
Awesome.
what do you need?
Month,
The
day, and year.
month, date, and year. So March 16th, 1974.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Each number in the birth date represents a gift.
Okay.
Then, if you add it all up, you have like the ultimate gift. So I like to think of it as a contract with Creator, and these are clauses. The first clause is a number three. And the three is a symbol for expression and youth. Singing, painting, dancing, writing, anything artistic, decorative, colorful. Is also a symbol for abundance, because the story of the Christ is about the number three. He
Mm,
was sought by three wise men. And there's a lot of other references, but we know he arose on the third day. That's Easter. I left a lot of them out for the sake of time, but when asked, Master, why are you here? He says, I'm here that you have life and have it abundantly. So the three stands for abundance. So your wife's gift is to always appear younger than she is. If she's in a room and children are there, they'll be drawn to her like a magnet. She's extremely creative in terms of her artistic talent and ability. And you may have a challenge getting a word in once she starts to communicate, because threes are expressives. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip her day for a moment because her year is also a three. If you add 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 4, it adds up to 21. 1 and 9 is 10. 7 and 4 is 11. 10 and 11 is 21. You with me?
yeah, I'm
Okay.
following, tracking. Absolutely.
And then you add 2 plus 1. That's also a three. So she's got a double dose of everything that I shared with you about the number three:
That's great.
youthful, abundance, social activity, mixing, working with children, being an artist, creative, singing, painting, dancing, writing, a double dose of that. Now, her day of birth is a 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. That's the number of faith. On the seventh day, God rested. So as social as she is, there's going to be times she's got to be by herself. It's
Yeah.
almost like, well, what happened? Did the cloud come over the sun? Where'd she go?
Right.
What? Because it's exact opposite of the number 3, which makes her social. So her rhythm will be to introspect and then to project, to introspect and then to project, because the 7 makes her a minister. Doesn't matter if she goes to school or wears a robe. 7 is the number of faith. So she's a mountain mover. Okay. She's a researcher. That's my number, the number 7. So she's a researcher, an analyst, a thinker, doesn't take things at face value. Oh, she goes deep. She is the reason why you are walking that straight line.
You're probably right about that.
Men,
Right about that.
marry a number 7 female, and you don't have to worry about going astray or doing anything wrong, because she'll sense it before it even comes to your mind.
That's
My
funny.
wife is a number 7. Okay. So I can't even dream about doing anything wrong. She'll go, ah, ah, ah.
That's funny.
I mentioned you might be a writer. Your wife is definitely a writer. The
100%.
16
Yeah,
is the
man.
number of the book.
How about
B O
that?
O K.
How
B
about
O
that?
O K. B is the second letter. That's a 2. O is a 6 because the 15, 1 and 5 is 6. That adds up to 14. And K is a 2, the 11th letter. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the word book vibrates to the 16. So when you see the 16, not only is she a researcher, but she has the ability to communicate it. So she's writing, has the potential to write, lecture, travel, and share her expertise. I don't know what her expertise is, okay? Numerology doesn't box her in, but that 7 tells me whatever she does, she's the expert, and people will seek her out for her expertise. It
Right.
also tells me she's so creative, her main challenge is to follow through. To
Yeah.
follow through.
Yeah.
Completing projects is going to be a task, okay,
Sure.
because of her creativity. So delegating is important. Now let's add it all up. Okay.
Let's do it.
Those are the clauses in her
Craig,
contract.
Craig, real
These are
quick.
gifts God
Craig,
gave her.
Craig, real quick. I lost your picture. Can I get you to come back?
Oh, sure. I don't know what happened there.
Me either.
Um, these are the gifts
There you
that
go.
God gave her,
Okay.
okay, that I just shared with you. The
Yeah.
creativity, the mental ability to analyze. So if we add it all up, it's 3 plus 16 is 19, which tells me as a numerologist, she left the house as a child. She got out of the house as fast as she could. Okay, it was quick out of there, man. And there was someone in the family who tried to keep her under their thumb, but she should thank them because that sparked her originality and her leadership. That brought it out. But I digress. If we add 19 to her year, which is a 21, guess what 19 and 21 add up to, Brandon?
30. Right. We got
The
that.
40.
Oh, 40. Is that right? Not 40. Oh my
You are
gosh.
married to the number 40.
See that?
No
Told you it's a
wonder
crazy
it's
number,
always
right?
on your mind.
Right? Look at that.
3 plus 16 plus 21. 3 plus 16 plus
How about
21
that? How about
is
that?
40. So her gift is the orderliness of God. So she embodies it. So
Mm.
wherever she goes, that's the energy that she's taking with her. So people are going to call her mean, stubborn, and strict.
I mean, I don't know if they would say that to her face. It's probably a bad idea.
Also, as a number 40, when you guys have entertained or have guests, after they leave, you'll find her going around the house, putting things back in their place where they belong. So orderliness is very important to the number 40, as our numbers. She's probably extremely good with numbers.
Well, she would tell you she's not, but she probably, it's one of those things, right? It's what you tell yourself. It's what you tell yourself, right?
That's the number 4. The fourth book in scripture is called Numbers. So 4 is always concerned with measurements and things like that. So you get involved with numbers when you do research and studies and things like that. So,
Right.
and I would also share with her that this year, which adds up to 23, is going to be a year of, it's a number 19 and 23 is 42. This is the number 6 year for her, a number 6 year. So she's going to have a chance to use her creative talents, skills, and abilities this year. She's going to have a chance to join with others in some goodwill project. They're going to be reaching out for her to work together in a goodwill project. And a lot of people do get a new home in a number 6 year. So the focus is on the home in a 6 year domesticity, the home, community, and your relationship.
Hmm. Well, that's fun, right? That's a lot of fun. That's great. So thanks for doing that.
It is
That's
love.
that's
That's the love vibration.
that's well, that's awesome. So, so you kept at it, and do you feel like what was it like, I guess, in kind of communicating this as your primary path to like your friends and family? And how long did it take you? So how long did it take you, to even feel confident to do that? And were you scared to do it?
Well, with my immediate friends, I went to right away. After losing my friend to that drug overdose, I wasn't taking any chances on holding back any information that I now had revealed to me about them because I knew their names and birthdays. So I started sharing information with them. Many of them were receptive, but some of them ran away. They became afraid,
Mm,
not because the information wasn't accurate, but because the information was accurate and
yeah.
spot on, and they felt, and now before they were invisible, now I knew everything about them. So
Mm.
people started running away from me, not because it wasn't true or accurate, but because they didn't want to stand in front of an x-ray machine.
Sure. Sure. No, no, no. Who
So
would want to do that for sure?
but then there was also the other side of the coin of people thought I just lost it, thought I just lost my mind and flipped out, and that what I was doing was actually something demonic and evil.
Mm,
So I took that to spirit, said, what do you have me doing here? Look, you told me this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to share it. So spirit told me I wasn't ready yet.
mm,
I was, going off too quickly, that to continue the study, and when the time was right, God told me he would bring his leaders to me.
mm,
So it wasn't a type of thing where I could get on and hit a brass, hit the symbol and advertise and put it up in the lights. Come to me, come to me. I had to be patient and wait and study and to
mm,
be prepared, to prepare myself for the time when God was going to start sending people to me. So that's what I did. I just zipped it up and
mm,
started studying. And the people who found out about me found their way to me. I had prepared my services now, and there wasn't a wide stream of clients. But when they came, I was ready for them, and I knew they were leaders.
right.
That they were leaders, and it hasn't changed. You are a global leader.
Mm,
The name Brandon is a number 32, and that's America's birthday, July the 4th, 1776. And the number 32 shows up in all of America's leaders. In George Washington's vow total, in Barack Obama, it showed up, and
mm,
it's showing up in your first name. The number 32 is called the ruler of all nations and people. And because I've studied that, that's how I know you're going to have a global impact.
hmm.
So this is why you're starting to meet people from other countries, and sooner or later you're going to have a network all around the world because that's that's what you came here to do.
that,
That was your contract.
I was gonna
That's
say,
what you promised, Creator, that you would impact the planet. So you
mm,
may not be telling other people that's your goal,
mm,
but that's pretty much what the universe has planned for you. Your last name, Hanley, the vowel total is a number 13. So I want to talk about that. People are so afraid of the 13,
Mm.
Brandon. They won't come outside on Friday the 13th. People are terrified,
For sure.
and for good reason. The 13 is all or nothing.
Mm.
It's an all or nothing type vibration. And what it stands for is change, release, and transformation. So it does mean death, but not how we think of it. Because we are spiritual beings here for a temporary spell, what we call death is simply returning back to our original state.
Sure.
It's a transformation. So the 13 stands for change, release, and transformation. And when it shows up in your name the way it does for you, it means you came here to be part of the transformation that's taking place. We've heard songs about the age of Aquarius. Well, by golly, we're in it.
Yeah. Well, I
We're
mean,
in it.
yeah, and I'll throw it out there too. I am an Aquarius too, so I'm all in, right? Like, I mean, do I need any other signs? Is there
So
something that
you're
I'm
part
missing?
of this
Right,
change, of
right,
this transition.
right.
So when people meet you, they'll be transformed. The 13 is represented by the butterfly.
Mm,
Starts off crawling around, ends up with wings flying.
right, right.
Same energy, same energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the phoenix that goes down in flames and then rises from the ashes. So people should never count you out.
No, I mean, that's great, right? I love both of those symbols, right? We always look at, the caterpillar and then, going into its cocoon and just totally eradicating what it was before getting into a big
Amazing,
mass of goo and then coming out like this beautiful thing, right? So I
amazing.
always love that. And the same thing with Phoenix is always a great story too, right? Down to the ashes and reborn again, and into something more beautiful than it was before. And I hesitate to say powerful, but powerful. Then more, maybe it's funny. I just shared a quote that kind of speaks to how I felt like upon like my awakening, if it were, as it were, right? I was like, I don't know what this power is, but I know that I'll figure it out, right? I'll work towards figuring, understanding it, right? And
Yes,
that to me,
yes.
just kind of right. The Phoenix has probably always been that capable, but it wasn't until it was down and out that it's got to strike forward and surge forth and come into its own power,
Awesome.
right?
Awesome, man. Awesome.
No,
So
I love it.
most people give up at that point. Most people they they check out,
Mm,
they turn
right.
to different escapism,
Hmm.
where if they just hold on and go through that pain, it's it's an old saying, but no pain, no gain. It's that's where you grow. A farmer has to break up the soil before it can plant a seed, and
No,
we're God's
100%.
seed.
No,
So
hey, hey, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I see that 100%. The other thought, and this is recent one to me, just a quick exchange of quotes and whatnot and thoughts on this. But there's a lady that I've been listening to some of her meditations, and just talking about pain as a gateway to the divine, right?
yes,
Unless we allow ourselves to actually feel that pain, and instead we continue to, most of us shove pain away, right? No, I don't want to touch it. Ooh, it hurts, keep that away. But if we go ahead and accept that pain and feel into it, and we realize the power that's within that pain, and I don't know if you transform it or just feel it, right, and be okay with it. But pain is also a gateway to the divine. And so I recently just kind of, it it's hit me. So one of your lines here, and Craig, this has been awesome. I'm really enjoying it, and I know that the audience will as well. But I love the line that you've got on your website. It says, "I use my gifts to help. I use my gifts to help my clients understand themselves as spirit. By journeying within, we can discover a higher self, higher purpose, and divine will." Now, is that from scripture? Or is that something that you kind of came up with on your own? Just curiosity there, and I love it, by the way.
no, that's something I came up on my own, just over time, over the years, people asking me the question, well, what do you do? What's it about? What's it for?
Right.
So that's what I came up with. I realized that the body is a temple of the spirit, and
Hmm.
we're not physical beings who have an occasional spiritual experience. The
Right.
awakening is, oh my goodness, we're a spirit inside this vessel.
Right.
And so with numerology, I'm able to share with people who they are in terms of spirit, in terms of energy, so they can see themselves that way. Because very few people will come up to you and talk to you in those terms. They're talking
Right.
about what school did you go to, or what car do you drive, where do
Sure.
you work, how much money do you make, but
Right.
not what's your contract with God. What did you promise
For sure.
to earn your body to when you book your trip?
Hmm. No, no, that's absolutely, absolutely. And so, one of the things that is actually, so I mean, it's almost like there's a UPC code on everybody that walks by, right? And you've got like a
Good
little
way of putting
scanner.
it.
You've got a scanner. You're like, "Boop, boop." You're like, listen, bud, let me tell you about you. Let me
Exactly.
tell you these. First of all, these ingredients are anyways. Um, the idea is that too, in your book you spell it out a little bit. It's not just to learn kind of this numerology to figure out who you are and just your kind of divine contract. In your book you also illustrate how you can determine relationships that beneficial in in matchmaking for sure, and like kind of find my next significant other, as well as how things will work out at jobs, or what are good job fits. Maybe give me like one or two scenarios. I know you listed out for my wife Meg, the number 3, or was it number 16, the number of the book, and being able to be a writer. What's like another
what's
one?
your what's your day of birth?
My date of birth is 125 1976.
Okay, so you're also a 7.
Hmm.
Your wife was born on the 16th. 1 plus 6 is 7, and you're the 25th. 2
There's a
plus
7,
5
you're
is
right,
7.
yeah.
And it just so happens, this is crazy. You're both sevens, and compatibility in my book starts on page 77. I kid you not.
All right,
You
there it
can't
is.
make this
You can't
stuff
make
up.
that up. That's right. That's right.
So I'm going to share with you what it means when you 2 sevens. Okay. 2 sevens. Now, this is in your day of birth sector, and the
Hmm.
day of birth in the compatibility report is the canvas for the relationship.
Okay.
It's the weakest energy, really, when you're doing compatibility. Like if you go look at to an artist, you go to a museum, look at a painting, you know, but the canvas is important. The
Right.
canvas is important.
For
So
sure.
here's number 7 and number 7 compatibility. And my book is on page 100, 2 sevens. Silence is so much peace exists with this combo. On the seventh day, God rested. So there's silence, there's peace, there's nonverbal communication, there's knowing without even speaking. Okay.
Yeah, we're
This
definitely there.
this this could be a couple who lives um, as hermits or on the fringe of civilization in blissful solitude, surrounded by nature, because
Mm.
sevens like to be away from it all.
That's right. That's right.
Very spiritually inclined to sevens. But who's going to pay the bills if both are lost in the world of thought?
And you see that we got that problem.
Very eccentric unit, with each being absorbed in their mental interests. So that's a couple of sevens there. Now,
Right.
when I added up your wife's month, day, and year, it added up to the number 4. Now, that's the most important number in a compatibility chart, the sum of the month, day, and year. So for you, it was 1 and 25. That adds up to 26. So your gift is leadership, the number 1. Everybody knows that. I talked about faith aspect of, of spirituality, being a researcher, an analyst, a thinker. Your year adds up to 23. 1976 is a 23. Um, okay, this happens a lot. I have one intention, and spirit kicks in. I don't know why that camera keeps going off. Spirit is telling me to share this with you. You're going to have a business and have an opportunity to hire your family.
Hmm.
That's showing up. Family entrepreneur vibration shows up in your chart. Um, but I digress. This happens a lot. I'll have an intention, but something will come in from the
Well, Craig,
universe.
where does that come from? Is that coming from a number or is that coming from a
Yes,
vibration?
it's coming from the number. Your month is a 1 and your year is a 23.
Okay.
That adds up to 24, and that's called the family entrepreneur vibration.
Okay.
The family entrepreneur vibration.
How cool is that?
Um, and it's showing up in your chart. Starting a business and hiring your family showing up.
They better get
But
to
as I
work.
said, um, I digress. This happens a lot. I'll have an intention, and
Hmm.
universe will say, okay, while you're open, share this. So I
Yeah.
wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
So your month and day is 24, 24 and 25 is 49. So not only do your birthdays match, but she's a 40, 4 plus 0 is 4, you're a 49.
Mm.
4 plus 9 is 13. There's that 13 again.
Right.
And 1 plus 3 is 4. So you match. Not only do your days match, but when I add up your month, day, and year, that matches. Man, when you took one look at her, the earth must have shook.
It was shaking.
It's
It was
like
shaking.
there was no doubt in your mind because you guys. So 4 with a 4. What does that mean? I shared 7 and 7,
Hmm.
harmony, peace, nonverbal communication, 2 4s. Both are very fixed in your point of view and somewhat stubborn. 4s don't budge, okay? Who can realize material comforts and business success. This is a workaholic combo that might put too much energy into working and building,
Mm.
okay?
Hmm.
Lighten up, lighten up, have fun.
Yeah.
With double 4s, any conflicts will be around budget or time issues because 4 is orderly. So
Right.
there's budget and time issues. Each should have their own bank account. This is a great business combination. So if you would come to me seeking advice as a couple, that's what I'd be telling you. You
Right.
need to have your own bank accounts.
Right.
Be more flexible with each other when it comes to time and budgets
Right.
because 4 is always about keeping the trains in order, making sure everything is growing. I'll tell you about the number 4. You see when they plant a new tree, Brandon, and they put spikes in the ground with that rubber on it to hold it in place?
Yes, sir.
That's number 4 energy. The
Ah.
tree can't budge. It
Right.
can't move to the right or to the left, but it gets a good root set,
Right.
and the survival rate goes up tremendously
Mm.
as opposed to planting it without those spikes.
Right.
But you know what the tree is saying? You're stubborn, you're mean, you're strict, even though you're saving the tree life,
Right.
making sure it's growing.
Mm.
So that's the number 4. When people are complaining about you being stubborn or mean or strict, that's when you know you're on your job.
I'm here. I'm here serving. I'm doing my contract. I got it.
Your
I
purpose
got it.
is to make sure whatever gets off to the ground, it manifests because God created earth on the 4th day.
Mm.
So all things come into physical manifestation under your energy, Brandon. So where other people have ideas and dreams, you have the ability to make your dreams reality.
Mm. Well, thank you, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a ton of fun. It really is. And yeah, I know you do so much more too. I didn't even go over all your credentials for the audience, but just so everybody understands this, you've got a Reverend Dr. Craig E. Wright, PhD, right? PhD in metaphysical counseling, metaphysical science. Minister, metaphysical practitioner. So this isn't obviously it's not new to you, right? And you've actually taken the time to, go and to an actual school and get, educated in this material, whereas you probably didn't need to. You probably found out most of the stuff, a lot of it on your own, but you put forth a lot of this extra effort. So I really appreciate, you reaching out to me, and being here today on the podcast, sharing just a small amount of what it is that you do, and even this whole conversation has been very impactful for me, and it's been a lot of fun. So if somebody else wanted to reach out to you to get this kind of service, where could I send them to connect with you?
Well, they could visit my website and they could see all the services that are available to them. And that website is www.craigiewright.com. That's CraigEwright.com.
Awesome, Craig. Thanks for being on with